Hello everybody, today I have my review of Kel Kade's Fate of the Fallen. So I'm going to dive into the book, talk a little bit about the author, and then I'll turn the camera around and kind of give you a picture of the extras that are in the book, like the maps, and there's a glossary and stuff, just so you have an idea of what's included in here. So before I dive into the book, Kel Kade was, or is, an indie author that self-published a series called King's Dark Tidings, or the King's Dark Tidings. Has 4 books right now. It's on Amazon, super popular. I believe that she submitted it to Mark Lawrence's self-published fantasy blog off, and it got a lot of traction there. It was really popular. I think at the time that I'm making this video, the first book in that series has like 1,200 reviews on Amazon. So, and like it's like 4.5 stars or something crazy. So, you know, very, very popular. Got a lot of recognition in that competition, and a lot of authors have done this now through that competition. And the recognition that they get, they end up signing a deal with, you know, one of the big publishing houses. In this case, it's Tor. And so now she's a hybrid author. She has that series, which I think there's another book coming in 2020. And then she has, you know, the more traditionally, professionally published Fate of the Fallen. So now we've talked about Kel Kade. If you haven't checked out, you know, King's Dark Tidings, I definitely recommend that you do so. If you have the Kindle Unlimited program, you know, you can read it for free. Just check it out. Or, you know, if you have a Kindle, just hit the try the sample button, or check it out, because you can't really go to the library. But it's definitely worth your time, so check it out if you haven't heard of it, or haven't heard of Kel Kade. So Fate of the Fallen, this book basically takes the chosen trope in fantasy. In this case, you know, there's a prophecy of a doom that's going to descend on this fantasy world, and there's a chosen one that's supposed to save everyone. But it approaches it from another angle and asks the question, what would happen if the chosen one failed? How would people react? The point, to draw a parallel to Lord of the Rings, just to make this a little easier to understand, right? So Frodo fails. This book is told from the point of view of Sam. So kind of the sidekick character is the main character, even though he's not the chosen one. So the chosen one fails fairly early in the book, and the Sam character in this book, his name's Aslo, spelled A-A-S-L-O. Not really sure how you pronounce that, so I'm just going to call him Aslo. Grew up as a forester. His friend is the chosen one. They grew up in this remote village. Aslo's a forester. Chosen one fails fairly early in the book, and he's given a quest by the Gandalf, you know, analog character, wise old woman, to go tell people, and then just says, you know, go tell people, and then that's kind of it. You know, what are we supposed to do? The chosen one's failed. Prophecy says we're all doomed. Not a lot we can do about it. And this Islo is like, nah, man, I'm still gonna fight. I don't care what prophecy says. I'm gonna do my best to fight and beat this, because I'm not gonna give up. And then that's kind of what the rest of the book is about, right? So he's on a quest to go tell people this king, the chosen one's failed, and then kind of goes on some separate little adventures to try to gain influence and try to convince people to help him and gain, like, you know, like power and allies and stuff to fight this big bad that's coming up. That's kind of the flow of the book. The book flows very well. It's 344 pages. You know, moves at a good clip. The characters are developed really well, and it's just kind of interesting when you have such a big and common trope in fantasy, but approached at a different angle. And I really, really enjoyed that about this. I enjoyed the main character, and I enjoyed a lot of the side characters. The world that Kel Kade has made, there's not like a ton of fairy tale creatures. There is magic. There's I think 12 like magic lines or lineages that you can be descended from. They're all noble houses. They all have different ideologies when it comes to magic and how it should be used in this kingdom, and they all kind of fight one another over, you know, to try to gain authority in this kingdom and try to push forward their ideology when it comes to magic. There's fae creatures. I don't know if there's actually like an elvish kingdom or anything, but they call them the fae, and they kind of live out in the wilderness. Gods are very active in this world, and there's several point of view switches from the main character to one of the messengers of the gods, and that happens fairly early in the book. And there's like different realms, and the people in this world know that. There's like gates that they use to transport themselves, and they can use these to go to different worlds. and the gods like kind of live in like a higher realm, if you will, of this material world that the book takes place in. And so there's several point of view switches to this messenger, and she's like kind of watching things, and so you learn about different aspects of the story through her point of view and the things that she's able to observe and stuff. So that was kind of cool. I think that's kind of it. I think like I said, I enjoyed the book, I enjoyed the world, enjoyed the story and approaching the Chosen One trope from another angle. The only thing that really bugged me was the main character, Aislo, right? Grew up as a forester, which is a very respected position in this kingdom. But he kind of grew up in the forest with his dad, kind of alone, interacting with the people of the village every now and again. But in my mind, that takes like a certain kind of character, like kind of a very self-contained person, to be able to do that and live on your own with only one other person. And if you grow up, that's your life, you kind of just get used to that. And so this character throughout the book comes in these situations where he's like giving commands to people. He's in these big battles, like directing the fight. And it's like, there's a certain amount of common sense, I think, when it comes to fighting. I've never really, I don't know anyone's really been in like huge battles or anything, but there's times where he's commanding people and they just kind of do what he says. And it's like, I don't know that he would really have the training and like the skills and the knowledge necessary to do what he does in these battles. So that was the only thing that really took me out of the story and kind of broke my immersion, which, that can be a big thing for people. For me, it wasn't very big. It was just an aspect of his character that I was kind of like, I don't know if that necessarily would have been how it went down. So like I said, depending on how nitpicky you are about things, that may be a deal breaker for you. But if you try this book and don't like it, I would definitely recommend trying King's Dark Tidings, because it's a very different story set in a very different world than this one. And I think just because you don't like, one author's book or series you may like, doesn't mean you won't like another that they've written, just because worlds and characters and stuff can be so different. So definitely give this a look, and I'm going to turn the camera around to give you a view of the book and the maps and stuff.
Alrighty, so we have Fate of the Fallen. This is the hardcover book. So you kind of got the front there, so that's the main character, Aislo, like I talked about. He's a forester, so you got his axe, little messenger bag there as he goes to tell people what has happened. So you got, sorry, hitting the camera there. So you got the pretty typical, like, cardboard covers there. This is a Tor book. Oh. Fate of Fallen, Tor. So, you've got a list of Kel Kade's other books. King's Dark Tidings, definitely check that out. This is book 1. I don't think the chapters have names. And then you got the cast of characters, places, glossary, note from the author at the end. In the beginning, pretty typical, you have a map showing the land that everything, that they travel as the story takes place. So before I get to the glossary, one of the things I just want to say is, this book, there's, and in any fantasy series, any series, there's always the overarching story, right? Big bad they're fighting or whatever, is the overarching goal. But I really like this book because it moved at a fast pace. But then Kel Kade, I like saying, the alliteration of her name, Kel Kade, does a really good job of like telling this self-contained portion of the story, but still leaving you invested enough in the larger overarching story to like want to read the next book. And I'm definitely going to get Shroud of Prophecy. It's supposed to come out 2020. Just because I really enjoyed this story, and I'm really excited to see where it goes in the next one. So props on that, because sometimes you get left with like these giant cliffhangers and stuff, and you're just like, oh man, I want to know. So you got this, trying to avoid spoilers here. So you got this cast of characters, no pronunciation guide, but kind of tells you a little bit about everybody. And then, so if you get lost, has a list of places. You kind of look up at the map, or if they're talking about somewhere, you're like, is that a city? Is that a country? Well, go to here, look it up. You got a glossary of like things, creatures and stuff, so you kind of know what they are. Just a note from the author just saying, you know, book 2 is coming 2020, about the author, pretty typical. And then you got the dust jacket, also about the author with her pictures. So that is, oopsie, Fate of the Fallen. It has cover price of $25.99 if you get the hardcover. Obviously, you can get the paperback or just the online version cheaper. I like hardcovers, so that's what I get. Bought at Barnes & Noble on sale, so check it out. Again, check out King's Arc Tidings. I really enjoyed both books, both really solid, or both series. If you are a fan of science fiction fantasy and books and movies, comic books, this is the channel for you. Subscribe. There's going to be a lot more great content coming out, and I will see you next time.